The background of the pilot shortage crisis that affected American Airlines and other carriers in 2022, and how it led to flight cancellations and delays. The year 2022 was a turbulent one for the airline industry in America. As travel demand rebounded after the COVID-19 pandemic, many airlines struggled to keep up with the surge of passengers. One of the main challenges they faced was a severe shortage of pilots. The pilot shortage crisis had several causes. First, many pilots took early retirement or voluntary redundancy during the pandemic, when airlines were cutting costs and reducing flights. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the number of pilots employed dropped by 4% from 2019 to second. The pipeline of new pilots was disrupted by the pandemic, which affected flight training and licensing. The Federal Aviation Administration reported that the number of new airline transport pilot certificates issued in 2022 was 40% lower than in third. The mandatory retirement age of 65 for pilots created a wave of departures that outpaced new hires. American Airlines said that 1/3 of its 15,000 pilots would retire within the next 7 years. Data from the Federal Aviation Administration showed that half of all pilots licensed to fly for airlines were within 15 years of retirement age. The pilot shortage crisis had serious consequences for airlines and travelers. American Airlines announced that it would stop operations in 4 cities, Ithaca and Islip in New York, Toledo in Ohio, and Dubuque in Iowa, after September 7, citing pilot shortages as the reason. This left some communities without direct air service and forced travelers to drive for hours to reach alternative airports. Other airlines also faced flight cancellations and delays due to pilot shortages. Southwest Airlines had more than 1,300 pilots picket in Dallas in June over stalled contract negotiations and poor working conditions. The pilots complained that they were frequently reassigned to longer flights, which increased their fatigue and stress levels. The pilot shortage crisis also affected the profitability and competitiveness of airlines. The annual salary of the average airline pilot in America rose by 30% compared with 5 years ago, to $200,000, making it the highest paid profession after medicine. This increased the labor costs for airlines, which were already facing higher fuel prices and lower corporate bookings. To address the pilot shortage crisis, airlines have been trying various strategies. Some have offered incentives such as signing bonuses, retention payments, and tuition reimbursement to attract and retain pilots. Others have partnered with flight schools and colleges to create pathways for aspiring pilots. And some have advocated for raising the retirement age for pilots or relaxing the licensing requirements. However, these solutions may not be enough to overcome the gap between supply and demand. Management consulting firm Oliver Wyman estimates that the industry is facing a deficit of about 8,000 pilots, or 11% of the total workforce, and says the shortfall could reach 30,000 pilots by the pilot shortage crisis is not only an American problem. It is a global challenge that affects airlines around the world. As travel demand continues to grow in the post-pandemic era, finding enough qualified pilots will be a critical issue for the future of aviation. The agreement reached by American Airlines and the Pilots Union in May 2023 was a historic milestone for both parties. It ended a long-standing dispute over scheduling, staffing, and compensation that threatened to disrupt the holiday travel season and cause massive cancellations and delays. The agreement included several key provisions that benefited the pilots and the airline. First, it increased the base pay for all pilots by 10%, retroactive to January. This was a significant raise that reflected the pilots' skills and experience, and also helped to retain and attract qualified pilots in a competitive market. Second, it improved the scheduling system for the pilots, giving them more flexibility and control over their work hours and days off. The new system also ensured that the pilots had adequate rest periods between flights, and that they were not assigned to fly on routes that exceeded their legal limits. Third, it resolved the issue of pilot shortages that plagued American Airlines for months. The agreement allowed the airline to hire more pilots from outside sources, such as regional carriers or retired military pilots, without violating the seniority rights of the existing pilots. It also offered incentives for the pilots to fly more hours during peak periods, such as bonuses, overtime pay and extra vacation days. The outcome of the agreement was a win-win situation for both American Airlines and the pilots' union. It avoided a potential holiday chaos that could have cost the airline millions of dollars in lost revenue and customer goodwill. It also improved the working conditions and pay for the pilots, who are essential for the safety and efficiency of the airline. The agreement demonstrated that both parties were willing to compromise and cooperate for the benefit of their common interests.